info.
Sorry, my internet went out.
Oh, it's okay.
Do I need to update the list here with any of your comments while I was reconnecting?
Couldn't even tell you were gone. So that was quick.
Thanks.
In a good way.
Yeah.
That's good. We've done our job then.
One other thing, just to sort of flag, again, I don't think we know that much detail, but just to keep an eye also on what the state is going to do, and I didn't have a chance to look up on that, but I mean the state's gonna, I think, get some pots to funnel through as well, that we may have some of these eligible, or some of these ideas could be eligible for.
For state funding.
Yeah, sorry, that got a little garbled. I mean, my understanding is the state will also receive chunks of ARP funding, but some of those are intended. I mean, that the state will use them, and some of those will be used for programs that we would be eligible for. But we don't have much detail on that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that the state has released any kind of information, and I haven't received anything from CCI either about that.
So do we want to maybe reach out on some of these project pieces? Maybe unmet needs committee might be a first initial allocation, see where the broadband project might be to improve that kind of infrastructure. Maybe make some notes on potential reimbursement for larger investments in staffing, at least to keep ourselves afloat over the next few years, and have kind of that spending allocation in theory outlined. I think that we'll learn more in the coming months on some of the, and I just put in here, and I wonder what you guys think on like the natural resource management, rec management, as far as continuing and protecting our economic viability.
Sarah, I wonder if you could put in here to, like, under that, if you scroll up a little further where you have the wildfire information and wait, where is that? Recreation impacts and that type of thing. I wonder maybe if you want to create a section, because CCI was thinking that there may be an additional pot of money for public lands and impacts on public lands through the pandemic. And so I don't know what that looks like, but it may be separate from the original ARP allocation and in addition to the ARP allocation. But there's not any, it's just preliminary, and I don't know that there's any actual information on there or available on that or what that means right now.
Okay, and I bet we could maybe lean on Forest Service to help us keep track of that with them.
Yeah, definitely. That would be really great if we could do that. Perfect, that looks good. I don't think I have any more information on this to share right now today. I just kind of thought it was good for us to have at least a preliminary conversation about it. since it is going to come and to us, and so that way we can at least plan a little bit. I also wanted to talk just a little bit about the childcare work that we've been doing, and then see what you guys might think. I've been working with Bethany at the school district pretty closely on some childcare solutions, and so we've created that strategic plan, and the strategic plan and childcare coalition work is pretty much being led by Build a Generation at this point. So it's kind of that grassroots coalition work and advocacy work that they do really well. And so what Bethany and Janine and I have talked about is taking a small portion of the funds that we had allocated in the human services budget and using them to fund a position with the school district that would help coordinate those childcare resources for community coordination of the deliverables that come out of that strategic plan that maybe Build a Generation doesn't have capacity to carry out because they're doing advocacy work. And so that person would take that information and then be the resource for putting that advocacy into work. And so and so we had put that money in the Department of Human Services budget anyway, and Janine felt like that would be a good use of those resources in the Human Services budget, and then part of their work would be to find additional funding for their childcare work, which doesn't sound like it will be a problem for the next few years with any of this money coming from the American Rescue Plan. But I think we're kind of in a place right now where in order to really hit some of those short-term goals, like figuring out programming quickly so that people can get back into the workforce that maybe are local and out of the workforce, we kind of need to have that person that's like, okay, I've got all these things and all these pieces, and when I put them together, here's the puzzle, it's solved, and here's how these things fall into place. But nobody really has the capacity to do that boots on the ground work, and then the advocacy work and the community needs work is just something totally separate from that.
Yeah, I think that falls right in line kind of with thoughts that we're sharing perhaps on even like the wildfire, right? Or like all these other things, building that capacity and putting those positions in place to get that work moving and implemented with some of those managing entities or agencies that this would live with. So I like that. I think that's kind of the key in a lot of these ideas to move forward.
Cool. I can talk with Janine about what that looks like as far as her budget cycle, since the majority of her budget cycle is on a July to June time period with her state funding, and then some of that TANF funding that comes in later in October with the federal fiscal year, just to kind of see and get a ballpark dollar amount with Bethany, if that would be my appropriate next steps. But I wanted to bring that to the board and talk to you guys about that.
I like it. Yeah. Right in here.
Cool. Thank you. Awesome. All right. That's great. And then let's see here. All right. I think that's really the bulk of the things that I wanted to chat about today at this work session. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to talk about with the American Rescue Act or anything like that right now?
I don't, there's probably more, I apologize. But I think as far as like preparing for like big risk management too, and just going on the wings of the wildfire protection planning, I kind of have the same question for you guys with that, you know, staffing in some like wildfire mitigation specialist, similar to that position of Cindy Williams and Chafee, and like moving that forward. Well, not really super similar. I think I wonder if we can't share staffing and monitoring. And with like folks like the Forest Service or whatnot. I don't really know exactly what that looks like, but I can learn more to bring to us for better consideration.
Okay. Do we want to, Chris, I don't know if you have had any information in any of like your county attorneys association or anything like that, of any type of timeline that we can expect with any guidance, or how we should continue to prep with this and fine tune this, or if you have any recommendations based on anything you might have come across?
Well, and most of it has been on the county attorney's listserv, asking if anybody has any information. And so everybody's waiting for that guidance to drop. And so I did just send you all a link to a guidance tracker that I found and have been trying to follow, so that as soon as additional guidance is released, I can try to pull that up and get it to you. But everybody's all over the board about how they think the guidance will read. And so that kind of is what precipitated my caution to y'all about we won't know until we actually see it, how broad or what restrictions there may be and stuff like that. So I'm sorry, I don't have much more information to share on that, but we've all got our ears to the ground waiting for it. So.
Okay. Hey, Sarah. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Just a couple other thoughts. I mean, Sarah, I was trying to get my head around the wildfire specialist, and I'm wondering, I mean, we don't need to hash this too deeply, but I'm just sort of curious whether that's a full-time position, sort of running those like outreach programs to sort of private landowners, or, you know, we also have this idea of trying to both respond to the increased usage of different public lands and rec assets in the county, and I'm, you know, including taking on some of the management responsibility for the Andrick property, and developing that management plan. I was wondering if there's like a broader position there that's kind of like the first staff person of a kind of, you know, outdoor recreation asset, public land.
And I wonder if it's not necessarily a new position at the county, but you made me realize, like with RWIC, they have that staffing and resources, or like with COG and the housing specialists under the COG, like, are there other, you know, let's not recreate the wheel. Are there other areas that we could dedicate some funding to have staffing or staff dedicated to Lake County and get a better focus on Lake County instead of creating our own staffing positions? Is there opportunity there too at like COG or anything? Let's see.
I can see that. I think there's a COG meeting tomorrow. Actually, need to put that agenda and pack it. But I can see if there's can ask if there's any ARP related analysis or info there.
I don't know. I think that'd be a great idea too. I wonder, Sarah, if you could put in the short term. I guess it might be actually closer to long term. Because we're working on the transit stuff, the transit plan. But then I wonder if there's long term. Oh, you've got it right there. Okay, like long term local operational transit.
The internal or county like mobility in
Yeah,
the county.
yeah. I wonder if you could put there like long, like, you know, just to, because the study will be done, you know, by the end of summer, and then we would be ready to start or not, like local transit. And so I'm wondering if, you know, if that might be something that we could use there even. I also was wondering too, and I know this is kind of outside the American Rescue Plan scope, but when we talk about, you know, looking at county parcels with housing, I wonder if we can think about brownfields money for any potential remediation on county property sites that may be identified. There's a huge pot of brownfields money available, and I am familiar with the grant process, so I could research that if that's, you know, something we decided we wanted to do.
It might be worth getting familiar with that, and at least to measure it on, you know, in the spirit of like trying to catalyze things. I imagine we'll have to weigh out the you know, the benefit of going through the process of obtaining and applying for funding, and you know, all those kinds of things, rather than just allocating. But again, I think we'll have to measure that and understand how to best leverage what we do, the funds we do have. Yeah, but maybe to remind us of what that looks like. And
yeah, I can do some background work on it if you'd like.
Sure.
I just am curious about, because there's a big pot of money available, and then if your population is under $50,000, they waive the match obligation, your local match obligation. It's normally an 80-20 split, but they waive that if your population is under 50,000 and you have a compelling application. And so I think part of it is just doing the remediation work on those parcels. And the last time we had a brownfields grant, we didn't exactly have a plan of like, these are the parcels that we want to, you know, take material off of or clear material off of and get them ready to be usable parcels, to either get rid of or enter into a public-private partnership or whatever that looks like. And so I think if we can work on identifying some of those parcels, there's funding out there to take care of those. I'll get information on that.
I think also somewhat related to that and the sort of other utility infrastructure work is like the airport industrial park, or sort of, you know, any industrial park site that the county would take, you know, a role in getting, you know, ready for tenants.
Yeah.
Maybe something to add on to the long EDC conversation list, or bring them in.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Great idea. Okay, and then it sounds like the housing stuff seems to be moving along fairly quickly. And so that might be something too that we think about how that looks like. I mean, like, there's funding the infrastructure that goes into a development, but then like planting the seed for the housing authority, or that might be a city conversation, I think, with their funding, if that's applicable.
Yeah, I did speak with Dan, one of the board members of the housing authority, and he said that they would have the capacity to manage like 5 to maybe under 20 deed restrictions, 5 to 15. But otherwise, they would definitely need an increase in staffing or whatever that might be worth. I haven't gotten an update on what the conversation was Thursday night, but
I think
yeah.
Chris sent out some notes.
I saw that come in. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a high level conversation for us to get familiar with the deed restriction process and how the deed restriction process works and the funding that might be needed for deed restrictions to work. And so I think that might be a good thing for us to just at least put on our short-term list, is to do some of our due diligence there and then see what those next steps might be going into maybe even 2022 with the housing authority in partnership with the city, maybe.
Yeah, I think what I understood, the housing authority can manage those as the landowner, if in that case would be us, decides what those should be, and the work with the city would be navigating and deciding what allowable density, and then how we might allocate property for development. So a question to the planning commission, city planning commission, on what kind of development we could plan for in certain spots. I will send this out to you guys. Anything else?
Sorry, just one other thing crossed my mind is whether Mail was on. I mean, just wonder if there's other stuff on Public Works sort of wish list. Like I know we're going to get a briefing soon on sort of the like state of the road assessment. We got more than enough in here, but if there are some things in there that are, I hate the term shovel ready, but like things that clearly need to happen that we're struggling on getting into each year's budget. Whether it's road or other, building infrastructure stuff that might be interesting, at least just to have that, in the mix for consideration. Again, I'm, just sort of reading on different thinking of what to spend all this ARP money and, other infrastructure stuff. If that comes down the pike, I'd just love to keep focusing on repairing what we have in the places where it's providing the best value to the community.
Yeah.
And I think you said this, Sarah, like, I don't want to build too many new things that we might not have the money to maintain over time.
No, I think that's a great point to bring up too, Jeff. And I think, I wonder, maintaining some of that road asset. Like I know we did the Schedule A roads with the Forest Service last year, or are we doing that this summer too? But I'm wondering too what those impacts were last summer with the exponential amount of traffic they had seen by people recreating closer to home and filling kind of those wooded areas, and I think about, below the dam at Turquoise Lake, that area as well. Like maybe that might be a place for us to have some funding put into to kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth a conversation with the Forest Service to regulate that a little bit so that there's not, it's not an additional dumping site, or that there's an area where we can have, I don't necessarily want to call it regulated dispersed camping, but just some more well thought out camping spots, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's not regulated, but I mean, there are places that are better managed and more pleasant to be in and not getting trashed, so. And so it may even just be like, I mean, I don't know if anyone did like an inventory, but, I'm sure there are places where, it's just like overflowing parking all the time and, not to put in like massive infrastructure, but sort of like we were talking about the code, just like maybe like a slightly bigger parking lot so people aren't, overflowing onto county roads or Forest Service roads.
Yeah, Sarah, now that you put down like vault toilets, I wonder if that might be something that we look at with like Kendrick Park and that area.
Yeah, Rec and Public Works are looking at that. That's a high need for sure right there. And I did ask Amber this morning at our check-in if they had come up with other sites. And I don't think, I also talked to the Forest Service on adding, more than just one set or what have you in that area below the dam, but the Forest Service has their own like certain toilets that they put in. So they, I guess I just put in a plea to maybe consider installing something like that below the dam there, but it wouldn't be necessarily a partnership that I think had been mentioned in previous conversations with you guys. And perhaps after, master rec planning, we could add and take an inventory of other sites that might be good to add something like that. But I think that's definitely a need. And maybe if we get these parking areas that's been talked about on the east side, Eddie Halcombe with the Snowmobile Club had talked about that a little bit and expanding some of those. But that's conversations with private land owners, which I don't think is insurmountable, but we just need to kind of focus and do that so that we can have some better direction of those impacts on snowmobiles and snowmobilers and multi-users. And maybe we can consider, if that works out successfully, a future conversation with those folks on potential toilet sites.
Sounds good.
All right. Good start and list to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. Anything else before wrapping up?
I don't think so for me. Thank you guys so much for your time to at least create. Can you just send this to us, Sarah?
Yep, we'll do.
Have a living document.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jeff, anything?
No, this looks like enough to get working on.
Okay. Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Bye.